Hello and welcome everyone. Myself Chetna Sharma. I'm Assistant Professor of Law. I'm not qualified. I welcome you all to my YouTube channel, that is Lawimpactacademy. Before starting this video, I request you all to please subscribe my channel and also hit the bell icon so that you get notification whenever I upload a new video of this series and other videos also.
So friends, today we are heading towards the discussion of section 10. We have already discussed the previous sections in my previous videos, and today we are discussing section 10. Section 10 basically talks about the specific performance in respect of contracts. This section is also amended by the Specific Relief Amendment Act 2018, and prior to this amendment, this section provides a discretionary power to the courts by the word may used in previous section. But after 2018 amendment, the may word is substituted by the word shall. Now this section is mandatory for the courts. So let's go through the section. Section talks that the specific performance of contract shall be enforced by the court. That is, now this is general rule that the specific performance of contract shall be enforced by the courts, and exception to these general rules are subject to the provisions contained in subsection 2 of section 11, section 14 and section 16. That means if any case lies under section 11 subsection 2, section 14 and section 16, this is not mandatory for courts to order specific performance of contract. Alright. Now for understanding section 10, we must go to section 11 subsection 2. So section 11 subsection Section 11 basically talks about the cases in which specific performance of contracts connected with trust. So section 11 subsection 2 basically deals with the contract made by a trustee in excess of his power or in breach of trust cannot be specifically enforced. So section 11 subsection 2 clearly mentioned that if any trustee or if any person under a trust makes any contract going beyond his power, then section 11 will not help him and will not make such contract enforceable. For example, the directors. We all know that directors are also under a position of trust. So the directors of a company entrusted with the power to sell the concerned property of the company with sanction of general meeting of shareholders. But in against the powers given to directors contracted to sell the concerned property without any such sanction. So this contract cannot be specifically enforced. Why? Because here they exceed their power, alright, or we can say breach the conditions of the trust. That's why these type of contracts cannot be specifically enforced by courts. Another example, a trust is a trustee of land with power to lease it for 7 years. He have only limited power that he can lease a land of trust only for 7 years. But he entered into a contract with B to grant a lease of land for 7 years with a condition that he can renew the lease at the expiry of the term. But this is not his power. He goes beyond his power, that is ultra virus. So this contract also cannot be specifically enforced. So this is all about section 11 subsection 2. Now move towards section 14. Section 14 is totally a new section. This section is substituted by Specific Relief Amendment Act 2018. This section basically talks about certain types of contracts that cannot be specifically enforced. All right. So the first is where a party to the contract has obtained substituted performance of contract in accordance with the provision of section 20. Now what does that substituted performance means? Again we will discuss it in detail, but for the time being I'll let you understand what is the substituted performance. Substituted performance is a performance by a person who is not a party to the contract. For example, A and B made a contract for certain things, and then C is performing the contract on behalf of B. So this is substituted performance. When a person gets the performance by a party who is not party to contract. Getting my point? That means A and B are party to the contract, but the performance is being held by C. So this is substituted performance. That means someone else who is not a party to contract is performing the contract. All right. So this is the first condition. If a party obtains substituted performance, then he cannot go to the specific enforcement of that particular contract, original contract. B condition, a contract the performance of which involves the performance of a continuous duty which the court cannot supervise. We all know that courts are having amplitude of the cases. So court never goes with the performance of any contract which involves a continuous duty. For example, there is a contract between a milkman or a person. That contract is he will deliver pure milk without adulteration. So if the person goes to the court and asks for the specific enforcement of that contract, this is not possible for court to continue watch over or continue supervise a particular thing. Okay, particular thing. That particular thing is the milkman cannot go to the adulteration, or because it needs a continuous watch or continuous supervision. So court never goes for such kind of enforcement of contracts. All right. Now the third condition, a contract which is so dependent on the personal qualification of the parties that the court cannot enforce a specific performance of its material terms. When the contract depends on the personal qualification, what does that personal qualification? Personal qualification means only a person can perform that contract. All right, not anyone else. For example, you contracted for a painting to some person, and if that person is not able to perform his work now, condition can be not in favor of that person. So if he is not able to perform, then court never go to perform an impossible act. So this is covered under clause C, that these type of contracts also cannot be specifically enforced. Now the last one, a contract which is in nature determinable. What does that mean? The nature of contract is itself determinable. For example, if A and B made a contract that if A doesn't deliver certain amount of goods within 3 months, then A is not liable to pay the money to B. And here, if B doesn't deliver the commodity within 3 months, then this kind of contract is in nature of determinable. After 3 months, the contract will in itself demolish. All right. So these kind of contract which are in voidable in nature, we can say. So one party goes to the court and declared it voidable. So in this case also, the contract which is in itself nature determinable, the court cannot order, or the court cannot go for the specific enforcement of such contracts. Alright, now moving towards section 16, that what section 16 says. Section 16 provides for personal bars to relief. Now what does that personal bars to relief? When the personal incapacity is involved, then section 16 provides the specific performance of contract cannot be enforced in favor of a person. Now there are some conditions. The first condition, that who has obtained substituted performance of contract under section 20, that we have already discussed. Now point B says who has become incapable of performing. Like you have contracted a person for a painting, and in accident he lost his hand. So now this is the person is incapable of performing. He cannot draw a painting for you. Alright, so this is the first. The second is violates any essential terms of the contract on his part remains to be performed. That means any part which is to be performed by that person. For example, A and B contracted for something, and there is a condition in contract that A will allow the proper accommodation for the delivery of goods, that in which place the goods has to be delivered. But in this condition, when he violates any essential term, he never lets B to know that this is the place and here you can deliver the goods. So this is the default, or you can say this is the failure of the part of, in part of A. So here also A cannot go for the specific performance of contract. Now the next is Actin Fraud. If A act in fraud, then also he cannot go to the courts, that we have already know under Contract Act, that is a fraud is a defense under contract. Now next is willfully act as variance with or in subversion of. What does that variance or subversion means? Means A and B contracted that A will deliver rice and B will deliver some wheat, and instead of wheat B delivers pulses. So this is the contract in variance. Now clause C. Clause C deals with who fails to prove that he has performed or has always been ready and willing to perform the essential terms of the contract which are to be performed by him, other than the terms and performance of which has been prevented or waived by the defendant. That means the plaintiff has to show that he was willing and he has always ready to perform his part, unless the part is being waived by the defendant. Alright, and if he fails to prove his part, alright, this is this is going against the favor against the plaintiff, that plaintiff have to prove, if he goes to the specific performance of contract, that he was willing to perform his part and he was ready, he has always been ready to perform his part, but perform essential terms of the contract. He doesn't make any failure, he have to prove that thing before the courts, and if he fails to prove those things before the court, then also he cannot obtain specific performance of contract by the courts. So this is a condition for the plaintiff who goes before the courts and seeks for the specific performance of contract, that one the doctrine works behind that who comes before the court or the law must come with the clean hands. That means if he is having any duty to perform, he must perform his duty, or he must ready or willing to perform his part, then he can seek the performance of the other party. So there are two explanations also provided under this section for the purpose of clause C. First, where the contract involves the payment of money. if any contract which involves a question of payment of money, then it is not essential for the plaintiff to actually tender to the defendant or to deposit in court any money except when so directed by the court. That means if he is having that amount, this is sufficient. He can prove it before the court by showing his bank statement, or by showing the copy of his passbook, or by the bank records. So if he proves before the court that he was having sufficient amount to pay at the time of his performance, or at the time when his performance is needed, so this is sufficient. This is not essential for the plaintiff to actually deliver the amount to the defendant or to deposit such amount in court, except when so directed by the court. If court direct the plaintiff to deposit such amount in court or to deliver the amount to the defendant, then the plaintiff have to obey the orders of the court. So this is first explanation. The second explanation talks that the plaintiff must prove performance of or readiness and willingness to perform the contract according to its true construction. That means here this is the duty, or we can say the burden of proof is on plaintiff, that he have to prove that he was ready and he was willing to perform the contract according to its true construction. He was and he is ready to perform. Right now, if court order him to order his part, he is ready and he will perform his part. So this is the duty of the plaintiff to prove that his readiness and willingness to the true construction of the contract. True construction to the contract means the original contract, alright, or we can understand it by the contract as it is, the original contract that has been made between two parties. He is ready and willing to perform the true construction, that means the original contract or the contract in real sense. Alright, so this is all about section 10. If you are having any doubt, please write it on comment box, and we will also discuss section 14 and section 16 in detail in upcoming videos.
So hope you like this video. If you really find it useful, do like it, subscribe my channel and share it with all of your friends who are preparing for judiciary of any state. So make sure you subscribe my channel, and thank you very much for watching this video.